Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Midas Letter Daily. I'm here with my good friend and co-host, Mr. Edward Molesky. Edward.
Hello.
How you doing?
How are you?
How you doing today?
What do you think of this volatility in the markets?
What's volatility?
What?
Stocks going up, stocks going down?
Tesla, which is $1 trillion company,
Well,
in the last 2 weeks has gone from around 700 and change
yeah.
to 1,100.
Really?
Yeah, it's wild. Like, this is crazy.
Well, the chart of that old Tesla there, TSLA.
I'm just saying that we are in very volatile times. I don't know.
All right, well, there's the chart.
Yeah, look at that. Look at the last few days. Look at those green.
Holy cow. You think he's selling cars or something?
Yeah, now it looks like it's rolling here a bit.
You know, I've been on the waiting list for a Cybertruck, a Tesla Cybertruck. I put my was it $100 or $1,000? I think it was $100.
$100.
$100.
$100 and you're getting a truck?
I put $100 down, and I still have not had any update or any communication from Tesla saying, here's your delivery date, send us the rest of the loot, or nothing.
Did they acknowledge the fact that you sent them $100?
You know, it's been so long, I can't remember what acknowledgement I got, but
wow.
Yeah, it's a very curious situation. Anyways, we have our usual show lined up today. We're going to be talking a lot about the battery metals because I just signed a contract to represent a tin company that is going to go into production on a tin deposit in Mato Grosso, Brazil. Yeah. Northern Mato Grosso, Brazil.
Price of tin has been on a tear the last 3 years.
The price of tin has doubled in the last year.
12 months.
It has gone up by a factor of 5 in the last 10 years. So tin, if you're wondering, is the material that is used to make solder, and that's what holds every circuit board together. It's so important for electric vehicles, solar, everything. Yeah. Everything has tin in it.
Big part in the movie where the Tin Man, you know, what was that
Wizard
movie?
Of Oz?
The Wizard of Oz, the Tin Man.
I think you're suffering from aphasia. Did you hear that Bruce Willis is stepping back from mining? Stepping back from acting.
Minding your own business? No, that's a thing. You can't talk. You can't put a sentence together.
Well, look, we have this problem nightly. That's usually when it's time to go home, no?
Oh, Jesus!
This is tired. I don't understand what anybody's saying.
I know. You know what? But you know, you get older and shit happens, right?
Well,
he's pretty. I think he's a little younger than I am.
Oh yeah.
Hard to believe.
Okay, so today's show, my special guest today is Jonathan Evans. He's the CEO of Lithium Americas Corp, trading on the New York Stock Exchange under the symbol LAC.
Big company.
And on the TSX under the symbol LAC. Yeah. So. Lithium Americas is going into production on several lithium deposits throughout. They've got a huge earlier stage property in Nevada, the Thacker Pass project.
Yeah. Are they just solely in the U.S.?
No. They've got a massive solar. They bought Millennial Lithium
in South America.
Millennial Lithium.
Yes.
They've got solars in South America. We'll run some slides.
Is that the deal that they paid out, what, $350 million or something like that?
I don't know.
Okay.
What the sale price was.
All right.
I haven't looked that up. Also joining us today is Mark Hanchett. He's the CEO of Atlis Motors, which is a company in the United States that's building an electric pickup truck and an electric delivery vehicle platform.
Is that the one you see advertised on TV?
No. Atlis is earlier than Rivian or Tesla.
Yeah, I'm not talking about Rivian. This isn't Rivian. There's something else being advertised, and it's very unique. It's got a very interesting advertisement. Anyway, I digress. Interesting to me.
It'd be nice if you knew what it was.
Yeah,
to bring it up.
It'd be really nice. I'll report back.
If you're enjoying the show, subscribe to Midas Letter on YouTube so you stay up to date on everything investment. Steve Eisinger wants to know, will Canada and the USA have to rely on any Chinese graphite? Steve, I'm going to opine that I don't believe so because there is so much graphite in North America.
Is there?
Oh, God. Northern graphite. It's
Yeah. Well,
Northern graphite is going into production.
It's another form of
America.
carbon, right? Graphite's
It's an analog of carbon. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, there's tons of graphite around. I don't think that we will ever rely on Chinese graphite. Cakeism trader, what's the difference between Banxa and PayPal? PayPal already allows users to buy, sell, and hold cryptocurrency. So yes, PayPal does allow for cryptocurrency transactions in some way, shape, or form, but Banxa actually allows the use of fiat currency to buy crypto, to buy something else. So the difficulty with crypto is if I wanted to buy a beachfront home in, let's say, El Salvador, now first I've got to convert Canadian, or I guess I could go Canadian straight to Bitcoin, and Banxa could facilitate the transaction because there's cross-border banking involved. PayPal, if you tried to do that, would have, if such a large transaction would probably have all kinds of extra stuff hoops you'd have to jump through.
Yeah.
And you probably wouldn't easily
So
be
is
able to do that.
Banxa dedicated to crypto?
Banxa is a cryptocurrency payment processor.
Yeah, dedicated.
Yes.
Yeah, and you're saying PayPal isn't so much dedicated to crypto. It's more
PayPal
of
is-
a general...
Yeah, PayPal is basically, I use PayPal all the time.
You do, eh?
Yeah.
And do you need any money to use PayPal, or is it just
No.
pay your bills?
It just pays money from your bank account, but
Well, you have to have money in your bank account.
well, obviously.
Okay. Well, I thought it was another way to buy on credit. PayPal.
No, well, I think you can get credit with PayPal. I'm not a big fan of credit.
Yeah.
Okay, the diffraction of light. Ooh, there's a scary
Ooh.
handle. Is it better to think of cryptocurrency like operating systems rather than currency, which are programmable and hackable, unlike gold?
You can't hack gold.
I think that, well, I wouldn't say you can.
Well,
hack
you
gold.
get a fool's gold.
If I bury gold bars in my backyard, and you see me burying my gold bars, but I don't see you seeing me.
Yeah, but
and you can go and steal my gold bars. Have you not just hacked my gold? Metaphorically speaking. So this is the
You
thing.
can't do anything to that. You can't. I know what you're saying. It's a way of saying, it's semantics.
Well, but here's the thing with gold. Gold you can, like, if I have a piece of gold, I can do whatever I want with it. It has no identifying marks on it. It's
Right.
It's not a specific piece of a chain that can be traced. And this is the CEO of Banxa, who was on our show last week, made it very clear that, cryptocurrencies are quite the opposite of untraceable and anonymous. They are the most trackable system of monetary exchange that has ever existed.
Crypto.
Because the blockchain
Because of the blockchain.
is indelible.
Yeah.
And the transactions never go anywhere.
I know. It's sort of...
Yeah. All the cryptocurrencies should be thought of as synthetic, speculative instruments that only exist through the forbearance of the global financial system. When the global financial system decides that they are no longer allowed, they will no longer exist. Unlike gold will always exist no matter who proclaims it.
Right.
So I hope we answered your question. If you think about it as an operating system, they exist on computers which have operating systems. It's not an operating system. It's I always used to call it Excel spreadsheets with some extra features. And
Okay.
That's subject for debate. That's more descriptive of blockchain, I think. Anyways, enough about that diffraction of light. I hope we answered your question. Joe Rock wants to know why is the U.S. weighing the largest ever drawdown of oil reserves, and what does it mean for the oil market? It means that the price is going to come off a bit in the price of oil
For a while.
But even if Biden releases the maximum amount that he's committed to, that will only make up for 1/3 of what has been withdrawn from the market by the exclusion of Russia's oil. So,
And there's quite a bit of oil out there that's not allowed to be bought because it comes from Iran or it comes from this place or that. It's a very... and now they're trying to warm up to Iran, and they're saying, hey, come on, guys.
Yeah.
Hey, you fucker. Just kidding, you fucker.
now, shut down those nuclear reactors or we're going to hack your system.
Turn on those taps.
So why is the U.S.? Well, because they're trying to, if the price of oil takes off, it tends to be a big damper on economic activity generally because people spend less when they have to pay more to travel. and goods cost more to ship, which means people buy less because goods become more expensive. So that's why the U.S. is trying to keep the price of oil from getting out of control. Gary Stewart wants to know thoughts on Pfizer sponsoring the Oscars and the SLAP.
I didn't know Pfizer sponsored the Oscars, but
Yeah, the Oscars are, for me, the most irrelevant events in the history of humans. I mean,
there's a lot of people who like this bling bling and
well, it's like so many of the films that win are horrible films, and like the best films get overlooked so often. It's so corrupt.
There's people in certain movements, certain groups, certain.
And Will Smith walking up on stage and slapping Chris Rock and uttering that "get your boy's name." I mean, it's like he just characterized the whole Oscars right there. It's like it's just a bunch of gangsters trying to see who's got the biggest bling and
the biggest kahunas too, maybe, eh? But it's all about their story, right? I must be special. You know, they make so much money.
The only person who has no grip on reality is the successful actor, because that's what they do for a living. Is they leave reality and pretend to be somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I guess we saw what Will Smith is really.
Well, they're going to make a comment here. The Oscars.
Did you know Will Smith starred as me in a movie? Did you know he played
The
James
Wild Wild
West
Wild
in the
West?
Wild Wild
I know.
West?
That was a good. He got $20 million for that movie, and somebody was saying about how it wasn't fair that he was nominated for an Oscar for that movie, and they said it wasn't fair that he got $20 million.
Did you watch that film?
I can't remember.
Do you remember the show that it was theoretically based on?
Yes.
The Wild Wild West, which starred Robert Conrad as James West.
Same color skin? No.
No, he was a white man.
And I'm no judgment here. No judgment. I'm just talking.
That's not relevant.
I know, but
the movie.
But there was science fiction involved with this too, to a degree.
Well, that's what the point I was trying to get at is the Wild West. The show was a classic Western about ranchers and cowboys.
Yeah, but this was about.
This was like
spies,
aliens coming to Earth, and it was crazy. It reminded me of Ghostbusters. It was kind of silly. It was a very silly film. Anyway, so thoughts on Pfizer sponsoring the Oscars? Well,
why is it because you're saying Pfizer? Is it because they're involved in the Omicron
Yeah, it's not clear why shouldn't Pfizer sponsor the Oscars?
But I'm just wondering, is it back to the virus? Are they so big in the virus thing? Like,
did you see any masks? Anybody wearing a mask at the Oscars?
Well, they're all wearing masks in a sense, are they? hey.
Metaphorically speaking.
Yeah.
Quite possibly.
Yeah. Everybody's sort of walking around trying to be somebody else.
The Academy Awards are not relevant in my life.
No, but it's good.
So
it's good. It's good entertainment. I mean, to laugh, not to be sucked into it.
When a guy gets up and behaves like a
I'd love to see Ricky Gervais' reaction when he saw that. He must have just rolled over and started laughing. Feel bad
Brian Dahl wants to know, with so much geopolitical instability, could we see emerging market central banks move their allocation back to gold instead of major currencies like USD? Boy, Ryan, that is an intelligent question, and I'm going to say that that's probably not a question we can answer.
No, but if you take a guy like, say, Eric Sprott, who is considered one of the world's gurus,
he would have an opinion that
he would say. I think Eric Sprott would say. I don't want to put. I would say that's what he's betting on. Like that's what's happening as we go further and further down that rabbit hole. It's going to be real assets. I think.
Yeah, I think that gold is going to play a bigger role in the global central bank reserve equation, especially
for stability reasons.
Get rug pulled. The cryptocurrencies get rug pulled by all of the central banks. That's going to see the price of gold. But the Fed is going to be all over it in the background trying to make the USD look better than gold. They'll probably pull some other shenanigans. Joey Hammond wants to know, what industry are you most bullish on right now? Joey, that's an easy one. It is the lithium and battery metal space, electric vehicles. Like I say, the battery commodities, tin, lithium, cobalt, copper, nickel, manganese. What else?
Wheat.
Graphite.
Wheat. You're talking about battery stuff.
Yeah, wheat is not something you can invest in, though. What are you going to do? Invest in
wheat futures?
Yeah, but you buy any futures?
Wow.
That's not an easy game to be in.
I don't. No. I just think the food prices could go crazy. Seems like the shortages are showing up everywhere.
So why don't you just go to like Costco or Safeway and buy like
bread, buy some bread.
loaves of bread.
Turn the loaves into fish.
You know what, I've got to say that, Joey, I bought farmland because I'm going to protect myself against higher food costs by having the ability, not necessarily the capability, but at least the ability to grow my own food should things go sideways. So after the electrification of the world and all of the metals and the companies involved in that, I would say agriculture. What are your top three, Ed? Let's go top three here.
Top three
sectors that you're most bullish on, industries, as Joey Hammond asked.
You know, I got to say, and I'm going to preface that because I'm concerned that we've inflated so much. Like the money supply has gone from X to 4X in the last 12 years or whatever it is, and you start to see some of these valuations crazy. You just wonder if the only solution ultimately is a major wipeout, almost like a cathartic cleansing of the system. And how does that happen? Well, we have to go back to a very low level.
Yes.
And get cleansed.
That's happening.
And so, but I think before that happens, I think we're in a commodity super cycle. But I think short term, the next month or two or three, commodities could back off, just build some bases before they make their next launch move. That's what I think.
Nice.
I like commodity cycle.
Anyways, thank you for your questions, everybody. If you like the show, you'll love our website. Visit us at www.midasletter.com for interviews with key CEOs, cannabis news, and to subscribe to our newsletter. If you're not familiar with direct lithium extraction, currently there are two primary forms of mining, of producing lithium. One is hard rock mining of spodumene in pegmatite dikes, which is 52% of the world's lithium supply.
How do you remember these words? Jesus.
Well, I've been in lithium since 2012. So like lithium prices took off, everybody was like, yay. All these lithium companies started public trading, and then the price crashed and everybody went quiet for a bunch of years. Anyways, Lithium Americas is probably the leading company. Jonathan Evans, the CEO, is formerly with FMC, which is now Livent. Livent is one of the only companies that produces lithium through direct lithium extraction. Anyway, so they've been extracting lithium through direct lithium extraction technology since 1992. So a lot of companies out there will tell you that they are going to be the first direct lithium extraction technology. Not the case. A company in China called Chengxi is the world's leading direct lithium extractor after FMC/Livent, depending on who you believe. But I'm gonna let Jonathan Evans do the talking on this company because it's a story that you really want to follow. It's very correlated to the price of lithium, which, as you may or may not know, has increased by a factor of 5 since the beginning of 2021. Here's Jonathan Evans. My next guest is Jonathan Evans. He's the CEO of Lithium Americas Corp, trading on the New York Stock Exchange under the symbol LAC, and in Toronto under the same symbol. Jonathan, welcome.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Jonathan, Lithium Americas has been one of the great success stories in the lithium space. I first became acquainted with the company, I think it was back in 2016 or 15, I can't even recall, but the interesting thing to me is Lithium Americas really leapfrogged over all of the companies that sort of started to move towards lithium exploration and production. And maybe we could start with a sort of a historical back look at what was it that gave you guys the edge that caused you to be so successful while so many others were left standing still?
Well, I think that first off, it's the people. So at the end of the day, this business is no different than, and I would say it's more technical in nature. So if you look at, I'm going to compare ourselves to high tech or Silicon Valley, you've got to get the right mix of people. They don't necessarily have to be lithium people, but good engineers, good business people, the right culture. And I think that as a foundation has always been a strength of the company, where if you sort of look at the management team, there's a lot of folks in that have real experience from the past, operators, where this has never been a promotional type of company. It's always been one where the mission is to get these resources into production. And then the second piece of that is the quality of the resources themselves. So Caucharí-Olaroz, my own history, I knew that resource back in 2008, 2010, back when it was the original Lithium Americas, that had the major shareholders were Magna and Mitsubishi. I was at FMC at the time, running that lithium business. And that resource is, as I think folks can see, is the largest brine asset, at least in Argentina right now. And it's probably number 2 or number 3 in all of South America, very high quality. And Thacker Pass the same. Thacker Pass has its heritage from Western Lithium. The companies merged. We brought a new team in and put a new process in place after several years of work to unlock that resource. And now we're standing on the precipice of hopefully starting construction rather at the end of this year. So, and then I think beyond that as well is timing the market correctly. So we survived through the Valley of Death, very bad pricing from 2017 and bottomed out in 2020 as coronavirus was all the rage around the world. And I think we timed the market very well from tapping the market for ATM and then an equity raise in early 2021, where we're very strong now. I mean, we have our own resources to be able to move these projects forward at the right pace, where the right amount of work is done, and also we can be thoughtful about who we partner with, how we partner, and at the same time, look, the market has really developed very favorably. So that's very, very helpful too, in that I don't think anyone expected the EV adoption rate to be what it is today.
Right. That's interesting. So the price of lithium has, well, I guess it's gone up by about 5x since the beginning of 2021. And so, I mean, obviously a $70,000 per kilo or per ton cost of lithium, price for lithium is very helpful to a company like yours. You've got $500 million on the balance sheet. You've got partnerships with Ganfeng, the largest lithium producers in the world. You've got some of the highest quality assets in the world. But to what extent is the price of lithium at the current level sustainable?
So I think the $70,000 a ton, you're looking at really the very small part of the market. It's tip of the iceberg. So and I know some of the retail shareholders out here will be angry when I say this, but what's really happening if you look at contracts, and a lot of the contracts are changing, is the levels I think you're going to see when you start seeing public companies report is more in the $20,000 to $30,000 range. In China itself, there's folks that are, I'm going to say hoarding, but being very opportunistic, holding on. And I think we're at a level now where you're seeing pricing sort of level out. The spot price, that $70,000 a ton, it's not moving a lot week to week. Behind it, though, the public companies and other operators that are in the space are working closely with their customers. But pricing has certainly gone up from, I think we bottomed out at somewhere around $7,000 a ton. And I think you're going to see regular pricing above $20,000 a ton for the foreseeable future. When I say foreseeable future, years going out. And that's helpful because the biggest issue that we've had in this industry is capital, is investing, and basically investing ahead of the curve. So if you look at Albemarle, if you look at lesser extent SQM, Livent, they had plans and they were moving forward on capital investment. Coronavirus hit and everything was suspended. And now look where we bounced back very quickly. This happened in the great financial crisis of 08 and 09. I was in the industry then, and we were told, "I'll stop everything, don't do any expansion." And then everything bounced back in 2010 and 11, and everybody was left short. And pricing went through the roof, although off a much lower scale. So this industry's always had that problem because, frankly speaking, the companies in it are small. We look at the lithium giants or lithium majors, but you see moves like by Rio Tinto coming in the industry. You will see much bigger companies come into this sector now, and it's needed. You need people with strong balance sheets who have a long-term vision that are willing to invest through the cycles to be able to get the industry the material that it needs, because the growth rates now are unprecedented.
Right. So in South America in particular, there's been increased sensitivities expressed in the media towards environmental impacts of saltwater pond evaporation methodologies and water usage. And so I've been seeing a lot of sort of buzz about direct lithium extraction technologies that seek to mitigate water use and environmental contamination through essentially chemical processing that reduces that requirement. Is direct lithium extraction an important segment within your future strategy?
It could be. All the solutions depend on the deposit, so they're all bespoke. I have a lot of experience with DLE, which is a fancy word for water treatment. If you look at Livent or FMC, they've been using a method with selective absorption now for more than 30 years. So you can see a DLE process that's been successful. Some of the things you need to consider, though, is the quality of the resource. They work quite well if the resource is a good one, which is no surprise. And some of the other assets that you see that are much lower lithium content, say 3 or 200 parts per million, you have no choice. So you'll see companies that are trying to employ DLE because you couldn't do solar evaporation there. There's not enough lithium content. It would all be lost in the salts that crash out during the solar evaporation process. The thing you need to worry about with DLE, though, is it requires higher energy. It requires a lot of reagents, and it does require water. If you look at Livent's process from a freshwater standpoint, and there's some legal stuff that has gone on in the past with Catamarca province, it requires that something like 85 liters a second of processed water from the Los Patos River, which for maybe about a little less than 20,000 tons. Our project at Cauchari is somewhere around 130 liters per second of processed water for 40,000 tons. And then if you look at Nevada, it's about 100 liters a second for 40,000 tons of processed water. So you always need water. Everyone will say I can put solar in for power and I can recycle and so forth. You got to balance cost and OPEX and CAPEX, but it is a potential solution, to avoid additional capital investment for the ponds themselves, which are hard to manage too once you put them into place. And then B, you can avoid handling as much brine, if you will, putting it out in that and inventorying it in those fields like that. I think it's part of the solution set, but I don't think it's going to be the new solution set because it just depends on the resources that you're dealing with. It's been tried in China quite a bit, in Western China, and it's difficult there because there's a lot of impurities. So it's a real challenge. I think you'll see Albemarle and SQM, and I think you'll even see us look at ways for us to optimize the process and reduce water consumption as much as we can with some derivations off of DLE. But I don't think it's going to be the next thing necessary to replace what's been practiced and relied on for decades now.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel any sort of threat in the future on the horizon from non-lithium battery chemistries?
I don't. I think sodium batteries, there's some great promise in that, but if you look at the weight to energy ratio, there's going to be much bigger, heavier batteries. So perhaps for stationary, for renewables, that's a potential solution. We've heard about vanadium batteries as well. I think for mobile applications, whether they be vehicles or, of course, handhelds and personal electronics, lithium will continue to be the solution. You can already start to see it where cobalt was a big issue, and that's started to be factored out, where we went from LCO in the early days now where cobalt's not talked about very much. It's been replaced by nickel. And nickel actually can be taken out as well if you move to lithium iron phosphate. So I think at the end of the day, you're going to see lithium as a common denominator, which it's not an element that's potentially or is rare around the world. It's never really been tapped very much, but I think you'll see ways to avoid and simplify the supply chain by folks like Tesla and others, where I've just got less things to worry about. First, I can take out cobalt, and if nickel continues to be in the situation it's in for a long period of time, you're already starting to see a move towards more lithium iron phosphate for entry-level cars and for mid-level cars. I think if you think about Toyota Corolla, Toyota Camry type of cars, those types of things, and then the high nickel chemistry is more reserved for premium vehicles. I think you're going to see more of a bifurcation like that to help manage the supply chain challenges around some of the issues that you've seen so far.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you've got plans currently to bring on stream about 60,000 tons per year in the near term, and then the Thacker Pass constitutes even more production in the future. And you were talking a little bit about the quality of lithium brine deposits having a bearing on how appropriate they might be for different direct lithium extraction technologies. So in your view, what constitutes a quality brine in terms of parts per million and impurities?
If you look at, say, Humber Marteau, where Livent is, or POSCO is operating now, or Cauchari, or even Pastos Grandes, they're above 400 parts per million lithium content. They're also low in other impurities, especially magnesium. So less than 5-to-1 ratio magnesium to lithium. It becomes easier then to separate. Magnesium can become difficult to separate from lithium, just given they're sharing. They're both alkali metals. I think that's when there's lots of different ways to look at it, but those two areas, lithium content and magnesium, are ones that I think you need to look at for any brine asset. The other thing too, which isn't often talked about, is logistics. So is there an ability to get to the site easily in terms of roads or is there infrastructure nearby? So if you're looking for lithium, by default, you're looking for water. We talked about that earlier. You need a fresh water source for any of these types of technologies. And you also need power. Solar is always an answer, but it's more supplementary. Whether you have natural gas or you have electricity from the grid, you're going to need something nearby, that you're building an industrial operation. So all these elements, in addition to having a decent quality deposit, all need to kind of come together, which, if you look at all of those factors, you're more limited into where you can move next.
Sure. I visited the Puno in Argentina and several deposits in Salta province back in 2015, I guess it was, and that was one of the primary issues was the local sort of belief was that there wasn't enough power to process all the lithium that was up there at the time, and there was some question as to where that power was going to come from. Where is the water going to come from? So how have you mitigated that limitation in Argentina and Chile?
So where we are in Argentina is a great spot. Cauchari has, number one, a federal highway which runs right through the middle of the Salar. So Route 52 is a sealed road that runs from Antofagasta all the way to Buenos Aires, which is maintained by the Chilean government or the Argentine government, respectively, depending upon what side of the border you're on. We have two sources of power local to us. One is from the grid. The other, we have the largest solar project in Argentina, which is right on the southern end of our Salar, which is put at 300 megawatts. And there's actually two more projects that are in Salta province, because it's right on the border, that are solar projects as well. That, your point, that's one of the ways the response has been, is to put these solar farms in to supplement the grid in that part of Argentina. And then from a water standpoint, Argentina, typically, we get much more rain than Chile. I mean, it's all relative. It's very, very dry. You've been there before. But we have water sources in the north and at the south part of Cauchari. And then in Salta, it kind of depends where you are. But I think there's been some improvement in infrastructure, especially in Argentina, in addition to an openness by the government, where you can look at the situation in Chile now. It's much more difficult, just given lithium is controlled at the federal government level, and you have to negotiate with the government over concessions, as you can see with that SQM and Albemarle has been through. Argentina is much, much different, where we have the right to extract lithium until it's exhausted. It's much more provincial level, and we have plainly just more water. So it's not nearly the concern like it is in the Atacama, which is the driest place on Earth.
Okay, and finally, what does the demand scenario look like for lithium going out? You see all kinds of crazy numbers painted by different elements in the industry depending on their interest, but from where you sit, what do you see the demand curve looking like going out 5-10 years?
Yeah, it keeps getting revised upwards. So if you look for where we are this year, I'll call it 500,000 tons of demand this year by 2025, or the end of 2025, you're looking at 1 million. So the industry doubling in the next 4 years, and then more than doubling after that from 2025 to 2030. It's over 2 million tons. If you ask Elon Musk, he'll tell you it's 3 million. And he's typically been right. So it's somewhere between 2 and 3 million tons, which is just unprecedented growth that's going to be needed over the next 7 or 8 years to support I think what you see and your viewers see is the government doesn't have to do anything anymore around electric vehicle beyond perhaps charging stations. The consumer has decided, the market's decided every time these vehicles are launched, you have to wait a year now in some cases or more to get some of these vehicles because the public really likes it, especially in Europe and in the US. China is already well ahead, but these two markets, which are the second and third largest markets for vehicles globally, people are excited about it, especially now with the Ukraine invasion and the price of oil and gas. It's exacerbated things even more.
Right. Okay, Jonathan, I really appreciate your time today. It's a great story, and we're going to follow with interest. Thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
You bet. Bye for now. So here's the chart on Lithium Americas. Just since March 16th, this company has practically doubled in value. This is the New York Stock Exchange chart.
Holy smokes.
Look at this. We got to hit reset here. But this is where I first met John Kanelitz. This is one of the founders. I met him down in Salta, Argentina when they were just starting to get busy down there. So it's a story I've been following for a long time.
How long ago was that you were in Argentina?
2015.
Okay.
Yeah. And I spent a couple weeks down there, met with all the companies, met with a lot of the players. But anyway, so I have now a direct lithium extraction technology company in my portfolio that is going to be trading publicly, I'm going to say, by next year. And these guys have the claim to fame that they are recycling their beads. So this is a technology that uses adsorbent engineered beads. They pass the lithium solution across it, and it selectively takes out the lithium.
Sounds pretty complicated.
Yeah, so the problem with these beads is that after you pass enough of the material through with all the impurities in it, the beads clog up and you have to clean them and or replace them in the process. The great thing about my company, Adsorption, is that they do not need to replace the beads until 300 cycles. So it makes the process much cheaper than most of the competitors. There are a lot of direct lithium extraction companies out there. I've been following most of them since 2015-16. And but for that brief detour into the cannabis space, lithium and battery metals have been a lifelong sort of obsession of mine. But so this is why,
at least since 2015.
Yeah.
Not a lifelong, but
No. I've been interested in batteries since the Sony Walkman. John Goodenough, who's a guy I interviewed, he was the guy who invented the original lithium-ion battery, or was the leading member of the team. I think he got a Nobel Prize for it.
No kidding.
Yeah, he actually developed it in the 80s, and it wasn't until the 90s that Sony actually implemented it in a new device. So there you have it.
Okay.
But yeah, the lithium thing is interesting because they expect lithium demand to double within the next 5 years and double again within the next 5 years after that. This year, there was produced globally just over 300,000 tons of lithium. The demand is currently trending towards 1 million tons in the near term.
What?
Just because Volkswagen, BMW, everybody's making electric vehicles. And as you mentioned, in Washington State,
2030, no more sales of petroleum cars. Gasoline. Yeah.
I knew what you meant. But so there you have it. That's
a big statement to say, hey, you know what, no more.
Well, and Volkswagen said that by, I think it was 2035, that they would not be producing any combustion engine vehicles any longer. They would all be electric. So this is the trend, and this is why our focus in 2022 is very much going to be on battery metals. We've quit smoking dope. We're done with psychedelics. We're just going to focus on serious shit here from now on, just so you know. And basically, we're going to sift the best from the worst and let you know which are the
separate the wheat from the chaff, so to speak.
Separate the wheat from the chaff, Edward.
Thank you.
And we're going to let you know which ones are the most investment worthy from our perspective. And you'll know that we put money where our mouth is.
Yeah.
Because, well, like I already
like this.
Yes. So, anyways, let's back up a bit here and let's look at the market more broadly. We're going to pull up the Here's the commodities. Now, commodities, as you know, are the best sort of bellwether reflection of where inflation is at. And if you look at, this is the price of copper year to date. Now let's back it out to, where are we at in the timeline here? Oh, let's go 5 years.
Yeah.
So this is the price of copper. There's roughly 3 times the amount of copper in an electric vehicle relative to a combustion engine vehicle. So copper, besides being one of the most commonly used industrial metals in anything to do with electricity, obviously has a giant role to play in all things electric vehicle. Electric vehicles have 3 times the copper in them, so that's a battery metal. This here is the chart for lumber. I follow lumber because I've been renovating a house.
Yeah, you like to lumber around.
I lumber here and lumber there. I lumber over here and everywhere.
Yeah.
But very volatile. And why would the
Yeah.
price be dropping? Probably because with interest
Well-
rates rising, there's an anticipation that housing starts are going to continue to decline into 2022, and that's what we're seeing.
Yeah.
Anyways, onward. Let's take a look at gold. Now, gold is the classic alternative reserve currency of choice for banks, countries.
But look, but you know, we look like a bit of a double top there. No, last.
Nice.
You see that?
No.
Here and here. There you go. Just saying.
Yeah.
Short term.
Yeah. But anyways, gold is the gold leaves cryptocurrencies in the dust in so many ways. I mean, we've been saying this for a long time. Cryptocurrencies will ultimately be made inviolable by legislation. And Larry Fink came out and said that he thinks that digital currencies are going to play a big part in the future financial system, and the whole crypto crowd went crazy. That's why Bitcoin suddenly sloughed off its slumber and got busy and started up to 47,000 on Larry Fink's comments. But Larry Fink wasn't talking about Bitcoin or Ethereum or Ripple or Tether.
He's talking about government-backed crypto.
He's talking about the digital bank central currencies.
Yeah. No.
Very well
it's,
said. Our currencies have been digital for so long. When was the last time you spent a $20 bill?
Earlier this morning.
We found a jar of change in our
Jar of change.
A jar of change.
That's the change.
That's changing. And anyways, we were like, well, what do we do with this? Mark Hanchett joins me again. He's the founder and CEO of Atlis Motors. Hey, Mark, how's it going?
Great. Thanks for having me here.
Mark, you've had an incredible journey. For those who might not have seen our last episode with him over a year ago, Atlis Motors is creating a fascinating electric vehicle platform geared towards commercial delivery vehicles, I guess is the best way to describe it. Mark, why don't you start us off with a refresher on what it is that the objective of Atlis Motor is?
Atlis is a vertically integrated electric vehicle company. We've got technically three pillars here at Atlis. It starts with the energy pillar, which is taking our core product differentiator, battery cell and pack technology that allows you to charge a vehicle in 15 minutes. That is a complete vertical. We're standing up and launching products actually this quarter and next quarter. So we're going to market with those this year. And then the other two pillars are focused on a electric vehicle platform, and full-size pickup trucks is our sort of flagship product that we're launching.
So that's kind of different because you started off with sort of a customizable sort of chassis delivery system, was my recollection. And now you're sort of pivoted a bit?
We've never actually pivoted. Their three pillars have always been in the plan, but what you're talking about is the XP platform, and we probably talked about that last time. The XP platform is a EV technology platform that anybody can use. So we've got interest with last mile delivery customers to put like a box truck or a step van on top of that. You could put a work truck van on that. You could put an RV on it. You could put anything you want on it. And it'll drive electrification for that particular market base. Those upfitters that don't necessarily have technology to transition to EVs today.
And so how much money have you raised so far through Regulation A offerings?
So to date, we've raised about $27 million, about $27.5 million to date through Reg A or Reg CF offerings.
You've achieved, according to your current price offering of $15.88 a share, a company valuation just under $1 billion, which is astounding. And so the question is, I mean, before I want to dive into those batteries a bit and more of your strategy, but how long is it until you have vehicles on the road?
Timelines sometimes shift, but we are hoping to have some vehicles on the road towards the end of this year. And then we'll continue over the next couple of years and launching the XT and the XP platform for external customers.
Let's focus a bit on this battery because it's not your average lithium ion battery. Tell us about the AMV Cube Cell. The
AMV Cube Cell is it's sort of the final product around a technology that Atlis developed here several years ago, actually. We've been working on it. It leverages sort of the best practices around heat management, thermal management, reducing electrical resistance within a battery cell construction itself. It's really designed to make that big leap forward. So today, EVs take an hour plus to charge to full. And we're looking to transition back towards that, internal combustion engine experience where 10, 15 minutes, you fill up, you go get some snacks, you go use the restroom, you're out of there. That's what that thing does for us, is it's the framework, the groundwork for an EV that can charge from 0 to 100% in 15 minutes.
Wow. And so it's also, its chemical composition is a little bit different. Nickel, manganese, cobalt, as opposed to what is manganese replacing in the whole equation?
The typical cells that are used today are either NMC or LFP, lithium iron phosphate. Lithium iron phosphate is becoming much more prevalent in the industry, but the energy density is super low. So if we're here, they're down there. The other ones are NCO cells, nickel cobalt oxide cells, LCO cells, lithium cobalt oxide cells. And then there's other chemistry solutions that are out there, but NMC it's common in the industry. It's NMC 811. It's high nickel content chemistry solution. But you're seeing the industry sort of fight between NMC and LFP, trying to figure out which one wins. We are chemistry agnostic. We actually don't care what's in there.
The rising price of lithium, at least as expressed in the futures contract for lithium, now at $72,000 per kilogram or per ton, rather, of lithium carbonate. How does that impact your future economics?
We think it'll stabilize over the next 4 or 5 years, but it definitely affects the underlying price, right, for an EV. It raises that price or that sort of baseline price, especially when batteries are about 40% of your cost.
Yeah, exactly. So my question is, I mean, and I wonder this every day, like, is that going to have an impact on the demand for electric vehicles? Are people going to be less likely to migrate from traditional vehicles to lithium-powered vehicles if that price sort of prices the vehicles out of the range of possibility for a lot of people?
Yeah, if prices keep going up, people are not going to buy into it. They care about that sort of monthly payment. That's what matters to them. So we have to work really hard to reduce that cost and keep that price competitive with your internal combustion engine vehicles today.
On the XT pickup, what is, you've got a 500-mile range, 35,000-pound towing capacity. Where does that sort of fit in the list of available electric vehicle tow trucks, pickup trucks, in terms of those metrics?
The electric sort of XT pickup truck really represents that big leap forward. We're trying to displace your big diesel trucks, right? Your big sort of work-centric vehicles, and that's what the XT pickup truck is focused on.
Is it the XT truck that you think will be available to consumers by the end of this year, or is it something more along the lines from the XP platform?
XP platform will come first. Battery pack solutions will go to some OEMs as well as some other startups first, and then XT pickup truck will follow after that.
From an investor perspective, what is the timeline sort of, do you think, till an IPO or a public listing?
What I can tell you is that we are in the process of being public this year. That's about all I can tell you currently.
Well, that's impressive. Now, in terms of we've seen some of the other companies go public this year, Rivian, et cetera, or last year rather, and the market's down, but their performance relative to the market has been less than correlated. So what is driving the investor sort of movement in electric vehicles?
I think there's a lot of failures. There's a lot of turmoil. The market is definitely down with EVs. It's sort of like over-promising, completely under-delivering. And that's driving a lot of negative sentiment in the market today. But it's still a very exciting market because while the market is down today, the future of this market is just growth from here. So you have to look at it as sort of you're at the bottom of that trough today. And it's just, in my opinion, it's going to continue to accelerate up from here.
I mean, I look at the AMV Cube Cell as a pretty significant differentiator for Atlis relative to other car companies. Are you making those batteries yourselves, or do you have an external partner?
No, we actually manufacture them about 40 feet behind me here. So we're making them ourselves.
Are you going to have to outsource that at some point, or at least maybe, scale that separately from the actual vehicle platforms?
One of the biggest hurdles in the EV space is scaling battery production. So we plan to scale that first while we slowly scale our ability to produce vehicles over the next several years. So the sort of energy business and the battery cells, that'll be the first thing that scales. We'll do that in-house.
There's been announcements from CATL, the world's largest battery manufacturer, and LG Chem and Stinitson recently announced a battery plant in Canada worth $5 billion, assuming that's in the neighborhood of 60 gigawatt hours. Do these battery manufacturers setting up shop in North America, does it affect your sort of direction, your optionality in your evolution of your vehicles? Do you think, oh, well, maybe those guys can build our batteries for us more cheaply down the road, or do they have any impact whatsoever on your planning or strategy?
Currently, they don't know how to build our cell. What they're building is they don't have the technical capability to build this. So what they're manufacturing is actually dedicated plants for their customers that exist today. So GM, Ford, Lucid, and others, those plants are 100% dedicated to those customers. They are not necessarily for external customers.
Do you see, so I've been on the waiting list for a Tesla Cybertruck now for, I think this is the third year I'm going into. And there's no indication of any delivery date or any firming up of the timeline at all. And so I'm wondering, being sensitive to the idea that you don't want to necessarily be seen to be critical of a competitor, but is Tesla just jawboning the market to sort of bring in all these orders so that Elon Musk can justify higher share prices?
I don't think Tesla has a demand problem. I think what they have is, like every single company that debuts a prototype, it's built off, it's a concept vehicle. It's not finished. So a lot of people get excited when they see a vehicle running and driving and sort of moving around, and they think, oh my God, it's done. All the engineering work is complete. The truth of the matter is, and whether you debuted at the LA Auto Show or in your own purposeful event, whatever that is, those vehicles are about 1% complete. They're concept vehicles. They're built off like a Model 3, or maybe you bought a bunch of components off the shelf, right? And you cobbled something together, but it looks pretty and it looks nice. People get excited about it. They reserve the vehicle, and that's how you raise capital to then actually engineer the vehicle, and that's what's happening. That's why every vehicle debut has multiple 3, 4, 5 years before it actually launches, because what's debuted is not real. It's a concept. It's functional. It is physically there. So I guess in that essence, it's real, but it's not even close to the final product or what's going into production.
The supply chain issues that have been plaguing industry globally, basically in every sector, have they slowed you down at all?
We're starting to feel the effects of it, more on the electronic side, not on the material side.
Huh. And do you see that situation resolving in time, or do you think it's going to get worse with all of the sort of geopolitical, geofinancial machinations going on, rising interest rates, withdrawal of stimulus?
I think it'll get a little bit worse before it gets better, but then it's going to get a lot better. There's a lot of investments going into solving that particular problem. Those investments take time to be realized.
Mark, we're going to leave it there for now. I really appreciate the update, and I appreciate your time, and I look forward to speaking to you again in the future.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. Bye for now. We have just a raft of great guests from the lithium industry, from the battery industry coming up next week, and everything to do with battery metals. So stick with us next week. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.